truth is that it's hard to judge competency only based on CV and LinkedIn profile. And I can tell you there've been a lot of times, like practical times, when at face value, the person doesn't seem to be a specialist in the field because they don't have the right job title or the role. But when you read what they're doing, you can read between the lines and you can see this person hasn't been promoted yet, but he or she knows what she's doing.
Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free. And now, back to today's episode. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SaaS SEO Show. I'm your host George Kassiotis, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Alexander Rehnborg. Alexander leads a global SEO team at GetResponse, an international SaaS company headquartered by the Baltic Coast in Poland. With nearly 4 years as an SEO specialist and 4+ years of experience as an SEO manager / lead, I would say, Alexander is passionate about achieving excellence in recruiting, supporting, and motivating international team members across vastly different time zones, work cultures, offices, and remote home office setups. He's the head of SEO at GetResponse. I'm really excited to have him as a guest today. Alexander, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
So before we get started, as we do with all guests here at the SaaS SEO Show, could you please share a couple of things about you, your background, what has brought you to where you are today?
Sure, definitely. My beginnings actually started with journalism. So I'm an educated journalist from the beginning. And I can say that I did some work at a local newspaper far back. Covered one story on drunk students wreaking havoc on a local McDonald's, for instance. But it was short-lived. It was hard to find a full-time job. So I ended up doing web editing and content marketing for a SaaS company in Sweden, where I'm originally from. And that was for a company that was leading within accounting software. And I guess once you get into content marketing, you start to publish content online. You start to measure the success. It's inevitable that you're going to stumble into SEO, and so did I. So after that, I discovered SEO, and I went full on into SEO specialist and focused on that for a couple of years, and found that calling is a strong word, but it feels like it's still, I must say, because it combined two interests of mine, which is language and technology, or culture and technology, and it remains so. I think that's why it's a kind of a job that sticks. So from that on, I moved to Denmark. I led an international SEO team within iGaming on the affiliate side. So mostly sports betting, but we also did a fair bit of casino. And I think that brought me a new perspective from the business side of things in SEO. I really realized the impact of it. If you've ever worked in affiliate business, you know that every cent and dollar, it comes from the sessions that you drive. And if you don't drive it, there's no money coming into the business. And that is harsh, but it teaches you prioritization, what works, what doesn't work. So that was a really good lesson. And now we're kind of done full circle. I'm back to SaaS. I moved to Poland here in Gdansk in GetResponse. It feels good to be back in SaaS again, being involved in one platform, one product, and championing that online. So that's a short story.
Thanks for sharing that. And I would argue that anyone who had their hands in affiliate SEO or affiliate marketing in general, they know one thing or two about marketing. I think that there are many great lessons and many not so great, I guess, from affiliate SEO. And I'm really interested, knowing more about it as the time passes, because I think that, as you mentioned, it's purely performance. Like if you can do it, you will make money out of it. For people who don't know GetResponse, could you please share a couple of things about GetResponse, what the company is, and who gets the most value out of it?
Yeah, sure. GetResponse is really a Polish-born company here at the coast, and despite being born here in Poland, it's now consisting of a global team, and we've been around for more than 20 years. And really, our offering is a marketing automation platform that connects and integrates to other features. So it's more or less a complete marketing software suite at this point. Email marketing, webinars, you can build your own website with our website builder, landing pages, live chat, web push notifications, and more. So, but the marketing automation, the automation part and the integration of the marketing features, that's the core of the product. And I think that the main target segment is the SMB segment, for sure, as for many SaaS. We do also cater to some more enterprise needs, and we have some custom plans for that, but it's small and medium-sized businesses, really. I think particularly somebody who's starting their own business, we offer a freemium plan. So starting on that, playing around with email marketing, starting to also integrate to maybe e-commerce features, and then growing with the tool. I think that's a person that's going to see great value. So yeah.
That's great. Thanks for sharing this. I would like to ask, as the first question that I have for you, you are the person who leads the SEO efforts at GetResponse. What is your main goal, and what is your main focus as that person?
Right. I mentioned a freemium plan. So my core KPI is organic signups, even signups that have been verified. So having some quality leads coming in. That's really what I'm all about. Of course, to get there, achieving optimal organic visibility for the business areas. It's not so easy because I mentioned marketing automation, landing pages, website builder that brings people like Wix and other big companies to play. So we compete on many competitive spaces, I would say, but driving signups is the key goal. But I always like to see, SEO-wise, I always feel there's a second goal. And that is, as soon as you start to do inbound marketing, and SEO is within that field, you need to feedback information back into the organization also. I think that's actually a goal, responsibility. We see the competitors, we see the content strategy. We're obsessed about what they're doing. We're also obsessed about their products. And I think we have a responsibility and a goal to actually, push that back into the organization. Hopefully, if you want to be a bit idealistic, changing things also. But I think, these are the two main things that I would be focusing on.
I think that when it comes to SaaS companies that are more of like suite of products, a suite of tools, instead of just there's one or two use cases, I always found it fascinating how you can integrate that into your content SEO strategy, and how you can approach all these different capabilities from an organic standpoint, meaning that you may have to create content for landing page building, for example, or how to build a page for your website, or for pop-ups or other use cases. And it's quite interesting because it's difficult to get organic visibility and build topical authority for one topic. I can only imagine how difficult it must be to try to fight in all these different fronts as a SaaS company. But I guess that you have found the way to do that. Yeah.
It's a good question. I think it's also down to experimentation and prioritization. You can't win all battles. And in some sense, I like to see that, yes, it's challenging, but it also gives us opportunities. We can pick and choose in one sense. We can see what works. So email marketing, heavily saturated market, also SEO-wise. Maybe we shouldn't go directly after the big generic topics. Maybe the long tail works. But when it comes to an area like live chat or web push notifications, far less competitive, then you can start to go for the big terms. So you need to have a different strategy depending on the competitiveness of the area. And when we entered the website building area last year, we also saw that there are some organic topics that are exposed, are less competitive, that other players haven't gone after, and then we can go after those instead. So you can't win all the battles all the time. You need to prioritize your budget and your resources, but yeah, you need to shift focus between these topics in a good way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I guess a follow-up here would be, this is your main goal. How do you properly communicate that to your team? And how do you make sure that my team is on the same page as, you know, everyone else, and knows exactly where the focus should be at any time?
Mm-hmm. It goes a bit into the fact that we're remote first, which I'm sure we'll touch upon later. But I think it's really important to establish open forums in the team to evaluate and to discuss the topics and the performance. So we have a number of regular forums within the team, both formal and I think informal, which is also equally important. And also, I'm a big fan of project management. At least to the point that you know and can track what's being done on a bigger level. So we're using Jira here internally, but I think Trello or Asana, whatever suits your taste, works. But it's important to keep track of the work in order to prioritize it. When you start to work on 5+ markets, you need to decide where the money and the resources go. But regular forums to discuss performance is important, but also to allow for knowledge discussions and trainings. And that also keeps people on the same page. Discussing KPIs, yeah, really important, but how do we get there? And I think as any manager or leader, you need to facilitate that discussion. Maybe not come with all the answers, but the framework so that people can discuss them and experiment. And then the last thing from that I always champion also is there needs to be open, honest discussion in the team. And a high ceiling, I think, for discussion. A lot of people say that they're data-driven, but if you look at the data, it usually contradicts our beliefs. It's not always popular. Here you need to resist the urge to always present the nice side, but also to discuss, hey, what's not working? What product failed? It's just as important to abandon a product that doesn't work as it is to join a new one that sees success. And yeah, that's an ongoing discussion, but I think that's also important.
Couldn't agree more, especially with the last point. Speaking of the team, I would like to know how many people right now in the team. How do you structure the team? What are the different teams that you may have? And whether or not you have your North Star metric, I would say, as you know, the SEO team is free trials from organic search, I guess. But do you have different KPIs or sub metrics that you evaluate the performance of a specific team against? If you could let us know a bit about the team and how it's structured and the different KPIs that you may have.
Definitely. We are still a small team, I would say, relatively. So we have a flat hierarchy. We're, let me see, 7 people, with me included. I think we'll be 8 soon, but that's where we stand. There is a potential for a sub-team, and right now, our senior SEO content manager for the US market, he also has recruited and manages a person from Vietnam for the Vietnamese market. So I think in the future, if we decide to scale up the team, then definitely there'll be sub-teams. But the setup is basically this, that we have a global part of the team, global support. That will be the senior technical SEO specialist. And we also have a senior SEO specialist, which is all round, so covers off page, on page. He's a Polish native, so the Polish market is his primary focus, but he also does work on the other markets. And then the strategy has been to be able to take charge of multiple markets. You need a native first person who can do that. So we're trying to recruit SEO managers per key markets. And so that's basically the setup. And the SEO managers' key focus points right now are content and outreach, because we see that that's where we have the biggest opportunities to take charge of new markets, build marketing relations. And without even a blog, you can't do much. So they basically start up the market, control it, and build relations. Whereas the technical specialist and the SEO specialist, they support on these things, but also I would say especially on the tech side of things.
That's
Yes.
very interesting, and I have many follow-up questions here. But I guess the first one would be, a while back, I don't know how, or maybe I know how. We used to work with a client who was a leading software in the online design category, and one of the prominent competitors, as you can imagine, was Canva. And I noticed back then that Canva was essentially recruiting freelancers, agencies, or I'm not sure exactly what was it, but they were trying to build links to the localized versions of their website and localized pages that were important to them through websites in that country. Do you think that this is something, or do you follow this this approach as well? Do you try to build links, for example, for the Spanish version of the website through Spanish websites?
Yeah, definitely. We did actually a big link research experiment for the Latin American markets, because that's the Spanish speaking and the Portuguese speaking language groups. They're massive. And we were curious to see whether there was a correlation generally between rankings and if you got backlinks, let's say from Chile, will you rank better for Chilean specific keywords? And there was a fair correlation, but mostly for queries that included these local parameters like Chile, Colombia, Brazil. So if people searching local, Google seems to also favor that to some extent in the link building or the outreach. But I think it plays a role. But from our side, when it comes to link building and outreach more generally, I like to see it also beyond links, because that's can be one nice plus, but we also just need to get the message out to build relations. We can do campaigns that have nothing to do with SEO, but if we build a brand in Colombia or in Chile, this will also indirectly impact SEO long term. So I think we need to look more broadly nowadays and not only hunt these links, but yeah, definitely, it makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the way things are today when it comes to organic search, you have to see it and treat things more holistically, let's say. And obviously, links and link building is just a part of the equation. It's not the whole thing. Speaking of the same topic, I would like to know, how are you in the position to oversee and manage people from other countries and know that and feel sure that they are doing their work as they should be doing it, and we set ourselves up for success. Are there any mechanisms that you use? Because I assume that it's not as easy managing someone in English, for example, because like it's pretty obvious this should be the work that they should be doing. And another thing, managing someone that's translating content and localizing content in Spanish, for example. Any tips that you can share with us?
Definitely. That's always a crux. But I think, of course, it starts with recruitment, that you need to find the right people. That's just the start. And we can also dive into that if you're interested. But I think at the core of it, it needs to be trust, for sure. And that also gets down to finding the right people. But you need to build an atmosphere of trust, mutual trust and community inside the team. That's when you know that people will produce optimally or be passionate about their job. Yeah. But of course, you can follow up. I mean, content today, to some extent, you can actually follow and do SEO work in a language that you don't understand to some degree. You can do keyword research, definitely. I think the Cyrillic ones, which I've had the opportunity to do research for before, that's a tough one if you come from a Latin culture. But there are formulas in Google Sheets that let you automatically translate keywords. And you also have the plugins into browser nowadays. Like Google Translate is pretty damn good at translating content, and Microsoft Word also. So I do some of that regularly just for myself, also to understand what blog content we're putting out or what keywords we're picking. And a lot of this is also down to data points. So keyword research and selecting the right topics, you can definitely check that in a different language. But at the heart of it, I think it comes down to trust and finding somebody who has the experience, especially being a language authority, finding somebody who is comfortable doing native copywriting It's not enough just to be an SEO specialist, because a lot of people are great SEO, but if you ask them to do a blog article, then they will say that should be done by a copywriter. So in these SEO manager roles, we're looking for somebody who wants to grow into an SEO specialist. There is one, but is also a language authority, has done a lot of content writing. It's not so easy, but if you find the right person, I believe in that concept.
Now the question is, how do you find this person, the right person? We work with many SaaS companies, and some of them pretty big, and they all have the same problem when it comes to hiring for SEO, that it's really difficult. And I understand why. I would say that it's easy for anyone to believe that, you know what, we know how to do SEO. And at the same time, SEO is a very opinionated field. Everyone can feel that, you know, my way of doing things is the right way. But how do you get people on board, people who can follow, you know, your approach and your way of thinking when it comes to SEO? And you know, anything that you can share about your hiring process and the things that you have learned in these 4+ years leading the SEO efforts at GetResponse.
Yeah, sure. This is an interesting topic, I think. Yeah, well, first, finding good people. I mean, one discovery I made recently was that these job ad sites, they're more or less suck. You cannot use them anymore. I don't know. It's true, at least for Germany and some other countries, but half of them seems broken, or I don't know what's happening with the companies to do job ad sites, but they're really mismanaged. So I would go, anybody who's still spending money on ads, you know, outside of Facebook, I would go into LinkedIn instead, for sure. Active outreach, look for people and build relations. And I guess that's what everybody's doing today. They're hooking each other up on LinkedIn just to be friends, to discuss ideas. This is how you find good people, actually. And through one good person, you will find 2, 3 others. So just the active outreach there, I think, is key. And then here again, there are different opinions, and I may also differ sometimes with HR departments, but I believe that the hiring manager should be leading the process fully. And I'm thinking especially of the first process, which is when a lot of people do filtering of candidates. This is a crucial part. I totally respect the idea that HR also wants to go in and they want to check people, but the truth is that it's hard to judge competency only based on CV and LinkedIn profile. And I can tell you there've been a lot of times, like practical times, when at face value, the person doesn't seem to be a specialist in the field because they don't have the right job title or the role. But when you read what they're doing, you can read between the lines and you can see this person hasn't been promoted yet, but he or she knows what she's doing. And these are the kind of instincts that we need to use who are working with SEO daily. So don't fall only for how the CVs are presented or how the profiles and the job titles look like. You need to see what people are doing. You will miss a lot of hidden gems unless you do so. So that would be a straight up tip right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I must say that I agree with, I guess, every point that you covered with this answer. I too believe that the hiring manager should be the person responsible for getting the right person on board. And one thing that we found very effective when it comes to hiring, not just for SEO, but for content writers, it works tremendously well for us, is that we have a paid test task, essentially, that we send to the candidate before we even get on an interview. And I would say that this it's really interesting because it allows us to see above anything else how creative this person can be, which, especially when it comes to content writing, is very important. And it's really, really, really important. And I see that it essentially helps us eliminate candidates and just focus on the people who can really bring value to the company. Do you have anything similar, like test tasks for candidates?
Yeah, I like that one, George. That's really true. You mentioned before something also that I totally agree on, that SEO is an opinionated field. Some things are hard facts, like how a robots.txt file works. That's kind of analytical. But how to do content research, that's a totally different thing. And we apply work tests as well. And it's not just to double check what he or she knows about SEO, but also how they would go about doing a task. Maybe the ambition level, fair enough, but it's more about the approach. And even somebody, let's say, who is in the junior level could actually demonstrate much higher competency. And to be honest, I've seen vice versa. And sometimes, we do get some questions or pushback. It's very rare, but some people who have had very big roles would have said, but why should I do a test? You can see my merits. I said, yeah, for sure. I mean, you're probably work longer in the field than what I have. But the point is just to see how they approach the job, right? And because the methods and the approach, that tells a lot about the person also. And I would say, getting back to trusting people in different languages, attention to detail, accuracy. What did they leave out? Did they leave something out? Where do they put emphasis in their SEO brief? So these things help us to understand how the person thinks, and that sometimes is, I think, it's equally important to the merits, because it really matters in the end. And then also something that's not so tangible, but something I try to find is hire for passion, hire for people who like what they're doing, and that's a no-brainer, but it needs to be said. I mean, we all need to be paid at the end of the day, hopefully, if we do a good job, but you can't just hire on pure skill. And it's easy to fall into that trap. I remember the first time I was hiring, I was thinking, I need to find the best possible person for this job. And then you realize that's not the job. The job is to find a matching person. And that's something different. It can be somebody who is not just ready for the role, but he or she is super motivated and they will get there in 6 months and they're ready to start tomorrow. Well, heck yeah, let's do it. So you need to be flexible and open also when you're hiring, and not picturing too much a specific set of person. Somebody can come along and shake your worldview, but it can be the right choice in the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just yesterday, I was reviewing a test task that we sent to one of the roles that we are hiring for, a content writer. And in one of the candidates' responses for one of the questions that we had inside, I saw something that was really, really creative, and also it integrated humor in a very sublime and nice way. And I said, this is it. And this person, by the way, you could say that they don't have the skills for the job, okay? But seeing something like that makes me understand that, okay, maybe they are not ready today, but if we get them on board and give them all the tools that they need, they will be ready in 3 or 6 months from today, and they will be way better than someone who had the skills but didn't have the hunger or was not creative enough. Now, getting people on board is one thing. Retaining them, especially when it comes to SaaS and tech, is a completely different story. I would like to know how you approach retention and how you make sure that people at all times after joining the company still have this need to achieve, to do more, to try new things, to stay with the company and be part of the company's success.
Yes, and that's the great challenge, and everybody's discussing the Great Resignation right now after the COVID, so it's a real thing. I think if you've managed to find what you think is the right person, somebody who has an inner strong motivation, that has passion for the job, I think it's all about stimulating and nurturing that part. Stimulate passion, challenge that person. They need to be excited about what they're doing, especially on a remote first basis. And I think one big answer there is personal growth. We need to build frameworks that are measurable, that are transparent, so that people feel that, hey, I can stay here 1, 2, 3 years from now, because I know that there are advancements available to me. I understand how to get there. And I know that I will be supported to get there. And that's easy to say, but I think a lot of companies still, they struggle with that. A lot of times when we talk about development overall. These things are very subjective. You may get quick feedback from your manager, and that's it. So I think companies need to start to map out what are the growth opportunities in your team, and what's expected of you to step into a senior role, management role. And also, I think clarifying the obvious divide between people management and specialists. So for a lot of SEOs, if you want to grow, at some point you will need to make that decision. So how do you get to the point that you can understand which path to take? Do you get support from your manager on that? I think all of these things are really important. So yeah, transparent and clear growth journey, I think is super important, and building training frameworks for people so they can get to the point they want to be. In our team also, I think this may differ between the companies, but we're a very diverse team. And that's always both strengths and a challenge, right? Because you have different perspectives, different backgrounds and experiences. I try as much as possible to play on the strength. I know that most people in our team, they're language nerds, heavily into language. So we try to do things around that. I think we're just discovering now that is a social tool. I think language training in itself for us also is important. We offer English training. I do Polish language training myself. I can say that is a challenge for sure. So being able to offer also these types of trainings really matter. And then retention, remote first. I mean, I've been remote first for almost 2 years now, and there are definitely pros and cons. But I think physical meetup still has a role, right? So arranging conferences, arranging physical meetups. For people to kind of see each other and also create that trust. Again, trust is also based on body language, how we behave when we see each other, not just via Zoom. And I think that's something that needs to be recognized. For sure.
Like that. Now we see it as we work with bigger companies, and we hear it from partners, friends, people we are connected with. I had 2 discussions like this the last 2 weeks, I guess. And my question is, as a company grows bigger, bureaucracy instead of idea meritocracy, as Ray Dalio calls it, wins, unfortunately. I would like to know how you manage to fight back against bureaucracy at GetResponse and make sure that A, all ideas are heard, and B, the best ideas win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. I think just by starting saying that bureaucracy, this is something that differs between where you work also. Has to do with work culture, has to do with country even, and legislation. So for me, I divide it up into 2 parts. There's some bureaucracy that you just have to accept. We cannot escape it. In Poland, for instance, if you want to sign a contract, usually needs to be physical. If you go to Scandinavia, usually it's online. So there are some things that they will just be things we need to abide by. And you need to put on a smiling face and just do it. The second part, I think, that can help to cross bureaucratic boundaries is to build relations with people. I find that matters a lot, especially now, again, remote first. I find myself striking compromises. Sometimes bureaucratic processes, they may not be completely necessary, or they may be a quick path. And if I can help somebody do their job a little bit easier one day, they might pat my back the next day. And it does work. And I think it is important because the need for bureaucracy sometimes also depends on the connections you have to teams, or also how they perceive the risks. So also proper risk assessment of, hey, do we really need to do this? What is the worst case scenario here if we don't do it? And in an ideal scenario, legal and HR, these kind of departments, they maybe they shouldn't be holding the mic when we sing, but they make sure that we don't fall off stage. That's usually my motto. So, and that's always a dance that we do together. But I think also open forums is really important, where managers and coworkers can meet, especially higher level managers. So if there are decisions that need to be taken, bring up data. And I think here we need to lead by example. So to not follow into the trap of the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion, which is, again, a type of bureaucracy. Let's be honest, it is. We need to show data and sell that. And I find a combination of hard facts, such as numbers on the table, but also soft ones, like, hey, this would be a business gain, or it supports the company's values. Well, now you got HR with you, right? And so it's all about understanding also the other party. What are they motivated by? Like legal team, motivated by risks, for instance. Okay, let's talk about risks. Let's assess them. So you need to have an understanding of the other person. If you can build that trust, then you can reduce bureaucracy. I think so.
I like that, and I particularly like the metaphor about legal and HR teams. Now, the last question that I have for you, since we are running out of time, I have in my mind, I have the SEO who always tries to make the case about the fact that SEO works. We should invest in it. It's a big opportunity for us, and in some cases, I guess he can win the argument, or in other cases, maybe not. I would like to hear your thoughts as to whether decision making for SEO initiatives should be based on a top-down or bottom-up approach. Unfortunately, you can't do without having the buy-in from the senior team inside a company. But at the same time, I guess that you need to make sure that you work at a company that really believes in, SEO or content marketing or whatever is that you're doing. And I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Just in the context of an SEO team, I think it depends on the decision to start with. So as a leader, you need to make the decision whether, to what extent you can delegate or involve other people. Some decisions should be taken from top down, I think, such as, if you're going to spend $30,000 next month, for instance, that's substantial. If you make a mistake, you've screwed up maybe the quarter. So you should at least make the final call, probably. But in a lot of, in most decisions today, increasingly, you should involve people, you should delegate. And I think, again, trust comes back as a theme. You need to build autonomy for people, build support for people so they can make those decisions. And that will also take some work and time off of your back so you can focus on strategic things. So it really depends on the decision. Yeah, but within the company as a whole, I think it mirrors the same principle, really. I know that some decisions I definitely will want to involve my marketing director in because let's say that they can have a big impact on the numbers, or I believe that there's big risk. But generally, I mean, the way of running business today is really to have people as independent as possible. And it's also, I think, this radical way of now breaking down hierarchies also relates to the fact that you can't know everything. So who sits on the knowledge? And in most cases, the team as a whole sits on knowledge. So when we map out the career path, for instance, in my team, I mean, if I have lots of experience with technical SEO, fine, but am I going to know as much about rendering optimization as our senior specialist who does it every day? For sure not. That's impossible. And that's how it should be. That's why he's in the team. So I think that the trust also comes from building competence throughout the company, top, bottom, right? And that should go for teams also.
I like that. And I think that it's a great way to wrap things up. This was all very insightful. Last question that I have for you, Alexander, where can people find out more about you and get in touch?
Sure. I'm not so present on social media and so forth. So I would say hook me on LinkedIn for sure.
That's great. Alexander, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much, George. It was a pleasure.
Before you go, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, You can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free.